Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to a new session of your history lesson, children. We've been seeing about the history, how we have got information from the past, when, where and how in our previous history lesson. So now we are going to see about Delhi Sultanate. Okay. So before going into the topic, we should know about how this Delhi Sultanate entered India. So we'll see first about Rajput dynasties. So when Harshavardhana was ruling India, after him Rajputs took over our country. So they were the clans. Clans are nothing but a large family. Okay. So they were the members of a family who ruled the country. So they were very powerful kingdom in north and northwestern part of India, and they were ruling India from 8th to 12th centuries. Okay. So they were very much trained in warfare from their childhood. So they were very brave in nature, and many Rajput dynasties were there. Two of them are very prominent ones. One is the Gurjara Pratiharas and the other one is Chahamanas. So we'll see about in detail about who were Gurjara Pratiharas and who were Chahamanas. So first coming to Gurjara Pratiharas. They were ruling North India between 6th to 11th centuries. Okay. So the first important ruler of this group was Nagabhatta, who ruled from 730 to 756 CE. Okay. So under him, Pratiharas took control of Ujjain and ward off Arabs from Sindh. So ward off is nothing but sending away the people who were creating harms. Okay. So Arabs from Sindh were sent away back to their own countries by this Gurjara Pratiharas under the leadership of Nagabhatta I. Okay. Then came Mihir Bhoja. So he was the king who ruled North India between 836 to 885 CE, and he ruled India from river Sutlej in the west up to the river Narmada in the south. Here in the map you can see, here it is. This is river Sutlej and this is river Narmada. Okay. So this was the complete control under Gurjara Pratiharas, right. So he also took over Kannauj under his control in 836 CE, and that was a very important victory during his period, because Kannauj was the capital of Harsha's empire and that was centrally located in the country, because of which the trade and the economical activities were going on good. So that victory was very remarkable in the history of Mihir Bhoja, right. Then came Mahendrapala. Mahendrapala was the king who ruled from 885 CE to 909 CE. So he took this Gurjara Pratiharas empire to the next level, which was in the peak. Okay. But there were repeated attacks from Rashtrakutas. So this weakened the empire and the empire started to crumble in 950 CE. So crumbling is nothing but falling off. Okay. So the empire started to fall off from 950 CE, and it completely came to an end when Mahmud of Ghazni took over the control of Kannauj in 1019 CE. So Mahmud of Ghazni was the Turkish king and he came from Afghanistan. Okay. So he came India, he fought against this Mahendrapala I, and finally he took control over Kannauj in 1019 CE, and finally the state, so that is how the Gurjara Pratiharas lost their control over the country, and that is how the country moved on to the Turkish kings. Okay. So the state of Marwar in Rajasthan was established by these Gurjara Pratiharas. Then comes Chahamanas. So they were another important group of Rajput empire. So they are also called as Chauhans, and they were initially the dependents of Pratiharas. Initially they were dependent completely on Pratiharas. They were under the control of Pratiharas, and later what happened, they established their independent rule over the places like Delhi, Ajmer, Ranthambore in 12th century. So in 12th century they started functioning independently. They were not under the control of Gurjara Pratiharas. Okay? And the most famous ruler of Chahamanas was Prithviraj Chauhan. So he was very efficient and an eminent ruler, and he fought against Muhammad Ghori. He was another Turkish ruler. He also came from Afghanistan. So he fought against Muhammad Ghori in 1191 CE in the first battle of Tarain, and he won that battle. So Muhammad Ghori, he went back to his country. He gained all the strength. He took his army. He took more people with him, and again he came back in 1192 CE, and he was Prithviraj Chauhan was defeated again by Muhammad Ghori in 1192. So there are that is how Muhammad Ghori took control over the country. So Muhammad Ghori was the first ruler of this Delhi Sultanate. So he formed Delhi Sultanate. Okay. So there are other important Rajput clans such as Tomaras, Paramaras, Chandelas, Solankis and Guhilas. Okay. So due to fierce rivalry in between them, fierce rivalry is they had many problems in between them. So because of that, they themselves put them down. Okay. So Rajput kingdoms started to fall down because of their confusions in between them, right. So now Ghori, after he succeeded over Prithviraj Chauhan, he started establishing his empire. Okay. So the Muslim rule was first established by Muhammad Ghori in 12th century, right. So Ghori's victory in the second battle of Tarain proved to be the major turning point in Indian history. So this was the turning point because before that Rajputs were ruling the country, and now foreign invaders has come to our country and they started ruling us. Okay. So that was the turning point in Indian history. And Ghori was mainly helped by his general Qutbuddin Aibak. Okay. Qutbuddin Aibak he was the general in Ghori's army. So leaving the control to Qutbuddin, Ghori went back to Afghanistan. Okay. So Qutbuddin was appointed as governor of Ghori's territories in India. Fine. So Ghori was assassinated, means he was killed in 1206 CE when he was going back to Afghanistan. So after that, the complete control was under Qutbuddin Aibak. Okay. So after after Ghori's death, Qutbuddin declared himself as Sultan of Delhi. Okay. So Sultan is nothing but the master. Okay. So for his master's territories, he declared himself as Sultan, and that was the beginning of Delhi Sultanate, and that was a new chapter in the Indian history. So this is Muhammad Ghori and this is Qutbuddin Aibak. So now we will see about Delhi Sultanate in detail. So now we are into the chapter, we will see about that in detail. So this refers to 5 successive dynasties one by one, which were based mostly on Delhi, and it lasted for around 320 years. So that was from 1206 CE up to 1526 CE. Okay. So these Delhi Sultans built many cities in the area, and that is how the place got to know as Delhi. And it's the culture of these Delhi Sultanates, their art and the architecture are existing even today, and they are very special. Okay. So the 5 successive dynasties we have seen. So we will see about What are those? First one was the Mamluks. The important kings of this Mamluk dynasty was Qutbuddin Aibak, Iltutmish, Razia Sultana, she was a queen, and Balban. And then came the Khaljis. The important kings of this Khalji dynasty was Jalaluddin Khalji and Alauddin Khalji. Then came Tughlaqs, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq and Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and he was succeeded by Firuz Shah Tughlaq. And the Sayyids, the kings of this Sayyid dynasty were Khizr Khan and Alam Shah. And the last one was the Lodis, Balul Lodi, Sikandar Lodi and Ibrahim Lodi. So, these people are the 5 successive dynasties who ruled our country in this Delhi Sultanate period. So, here you can see the Mamluk dynasty, the king who ruled from 1206 to 1290 CE, and here Khalji dynasty, the kings ruled from 1291 to 1320 CE. Then came Tughlaq dynasty, which lasted from 1321 CE to 1413 CE. Then came Sayyid dynasty, so which lasted from 1414 to 1451 CE, and finally came the Lodi dynasty, which lasted from 1451 to 1526 CE. So, first we will see in detail about Mamluk dynasty. So, Qutbuddin Aibak was the first ruler of this Mamluk dynasty, and he claimed himself to be the leader because his master Muhammad Ghori was assassinated, right. So, he claimed the Indian territories which included Punjab, Sindh and Indo-Gangetic plains and the present day Bihar and Bengal. So, all these were under the control of Qutbuddin Aibak, and he established his capital in Delhi in 1206 CE. And the dynasty which was established by him was called as Mamluk dynasty, and Mamluk is an Arabic word which means owned, okay. And this dynasty, this Mamluk dynasty was also called as slave dynasty. So, going in detail about Qutbuddin Aibak, he was an able general who was working in the army of Muhammad Ghori, and he very rarely lost in the battle because he was strong enough and he was bold enough in taking his decision. So, he worked under Muhammad Ghori. And he captured the areas between the rivers of Yamuna and Ganga, and he was the main reason for Ghori's army succeeding over Rajputs. He was the eminent person in Ghori's army. And he also have built 2 mosques, Quwat al-Aslam in Delhi and Dai Din Ka Jopra in Ajmer. Okay, so he started his work of Qutub Minar, but he didn't complete it. Before that, he died after an accidental fall. After he fell down while he was playing polo in 1210 CE. So here is the mosque which is Dai Din Ka Jopra, and this is Qutub Minar which was left incomplete by Qutbuddin Aibak. Then came after Qutbuddin Aibak, Iltutmish took over the rule in India. So, he lasted from 1210 to 1236 CE. So, he was succeeded, that is Aibak's son-in-law was Shamsuddin Iltutmish. So, he was he was Aibak's son-in-law. Okay. So, he fought a series of battles against Rajputs and the rulers of Lahore and Sindh. So, that is how he expanded his kingdom over the rivers of Yamuna and Ganga. He expanded the kingdom over various places. And he fended off an attack by Mongol leader Genghis Khan, who had overrun vast areas of Asia in a short time span. So, Genghis Khan was a Mongol leader. He fought against this Iltutmish, and he was finally overrun by the he was overrunning the areas of Asia in a very short span. So, he nominated, after Iltutmish, he was not satisfied with his sons. So, finally, he nominated his daughter Razia Sultana to be the next Sultan of Delhi, because he felt that his sons were not worthy of the throne. He was not satisfied with their sons. So, he nominated his daughter Razia Sultana as the next Sultanate of Delhi. So, then came Razia Sultana. She ruled Delhi Sultanate from 1236 to 1240 CE. So, she was a very wise and capable queen, and she dressed like a man. She just wanted to rule the country like her father. So, she dressed up herself like a man, and she used to ride on the elephant when she was going or when she was leading her troops. And she established the law and order intact in the country. Okay, so she was ruling very wisely. She was an efficient queen, but there were a group of nobles who were called as Group of 40. Okay, and the military leaders, the Group of 40 and the military leaders who were there, they were not ready to accept a woman being heading them. Okay, so they were not ready to accept that a woman was their sultan. So, for that they conspired against her and had removed her in 1240 CE. So, she should not rule them, that was their point, and finally they succeeded at their point, and in 1240 CE she was removed from being a sultan. So, finally Naziruddin, who was the youngest son of Iltutmish, okay, the brother of Razia Sultana, he came to the rule, and he ascended the throne in 1248 CE, and he was proved inefficient as a ruler, but he was not efficient as a ruler. And finally, Ghiyazuddin Balban, who ruled from 1266 to 1286 CE. So, when Naziruddin died in 1266 CE, okay, so after Naziruddin's death, Balban, he was the prime minister of Naziruddin, and he took over as the sultan. Okay, so this Ghiyazuddin Balban was prime minister of Naziruddin. So, he took over as the Sultan of Delhi, and he inherited an empire with barely any law and order, which was threatened by Mongols. So, he was again not a very efficient ruler, and he was a stern man who believed in ruling with iron and blood. Okay, so he did not rule the country peacefully. He strongly believed in iron and blood, which means controlling the people through fear and force. So, he thought that he can rule efficiently only by threatening the people, only by scaring the people. So, in 1241 CE, Mongols attacked Lahore, and Balban held the Mongols away with a clever mix of force and diplomacy. So, with this help of force, he could send away the Mongols back in the war that happened in Lahore. Okay, so he built a chain of fortresses to strengthen the northwest frontier. So, to make sure that the country is strong enough to face any other invaders' attack, he made sure that he built many series of fortresses. And he died in 1286 CE, and he was succeeded by his grandson. So, when he passed away in 1286, his grandson took over the Sultanate, and on his death the kingdom weakened. That is, on the death of Balban, the kingdom started to get weak, and finally that collapsed the slave dynasty. So, the throne of Delhi passed into the hands of Turco-Afghan family known as Khaljis in 1290 CE. So his grandson was not as efficient as Balban. So finally what happened? The next group from Turco-Afghan family, they came India, they fought against them and they took over the country from this Balban. Okay, so these Khaljis entered into India in 1290 CE. So here you can see Balban's tomb, which was built in a very simple way. This is the tomb gate and this is the tomb. So here is your assignment. Who was the first Sultan of Delhi, and name the 5 dynasties of Delhi Sultanate and why was the slave dynasty called so. With this, see you in the next session with Khalji Dynasty children. Thank you. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.